Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we are going to discuss about Goa, particularly about number of foreign tourists coming to Goa. There is a very big reason for that because for the past few years, especially after COVID-19 pandemic, the number of foreign tourist arrivals in Goa have reduced enormously. So what is the reason behind it and what can Goa government do in order to further attract tourists? We'll find out in our today's video, okay? Now the notes that I will be using in our today's session, if you want to download them, they will be made available on this particular Telegram channel, ATS Live. So you just go to this channel and you can download the notes, and while you're at it, do not forget to subscribe to the channel also. Let us start our today's discussion by highlighting why is Goa so popular. How many of you remember this famous scene from the Hindi movie Dil Chahta Hai, which was released back in 2001? Now this movie is about three friends who take a unplanned road trip from Mumbai to Goa. And this is a very famous scene which has made Goa a popular destination and also a plan or a holiday that each and every one of us want to have it with our friends. So that is why Goa as a tourist destination became so popular in India. It was already popular, it was made more popular by this movie. Similarly, another screenshot that I have attached is from a Hollywood movie, Born Supremacy, which was released in 2004. Now, initial few minutes of this movie was shot entirely on the beaches, on the different locations of Goa, showing you the beauty and the serene beauty of it. Now, the popularity of these movies, be it both Bollywood and Hollywood, made Goa a popular tourist destination for domestic tourists in India as well as foreign tourists who come from far away across the world. So that is why Goa for long has been very popular, and let us understand the context why are we discussing Goa today. Now, in October, it marks the start of tourist season in Goa because Goa is usually the number of tourists who come to Goa, majorly they come on the months of October to February, March, right? Now, with this October, the tourist season has arrived in Goa, but still people are very apprehensive about how many tourists would come to Goa. And the reason is because of structural as well as perception related challenges that the Goa as a popular tourist destination faces. So first we'll try to discuss what are the challenges or what are the perception related problems Goa is facing and why the amount of tourists who have come to this have reduced. And then we'll try to understand what are the steps that Government of India, Government of Goa can take in order to make Goa more friendly for foreign tourists. First, let us understand important facts about tourism in Goa. Now, tourism is a very big business as far as Goa is concerned. It contributes to over 1/3 of total employment in the Goa's population. In addition to that, it contributes 16% to the gross state domestic product, which is the state's GDP. So in terms of economic contribution, you need to understand Goa is very dependent on tourist activities. But now let us see the amount of tourist arrivals in Goa in the past few years, particularly before and after COVID-19 pandemic. Now from the year 2019, when COVID had not hit us, you can see the amount of domestic tourists in Goa were about 71 lakhs, as well as foreign tourists were more than 9 lakhs. Now this domestic tourist arrivals have increased since the pandemic. So before pandemic, it was 71.27 lakh. Now, last year, it was very close to 1 crore domestic tourists who have arrived in Goa. But the things are quite exactly different when it comes to number of foreign tourists who are coming into Goa. See, there has been a decline. The first decline that happened due to COVID-19 pandemic was understandable. But even after that, till last year, the amount of foreign tourists who came to Goa were basically half the number of tourists that were coming before pandemic. So there must be some very good reason, right, why the amount of foreign tourists coming to Goa have decreased, right? So we'll try to understand why there has been a decrease in the amount of foreign tourists who are coming to Goa. Let us understand the first reason. The first reason is because of the major source of tourists who come to Goa come from Central Asian republics, they come from countries like Ukraine, they come from countries like Russia, and they come from Middle Eastern countries. Now these two areas that I've talked about have been under conflict for quite a long time, since 2022 in particular. So because of that, people belonging to these areas where there has been conflict, the amount of tourists who are coming from this region automatically has reduced because people have other priorities in those regions. Similarly, foreign tourists who have to come to Goa, they have to get an Indian visa obviously, but the process of getting Indian visa is quite cumbersome, and this discourages many foreign tourists to come to Goa, and rather they prefer to go to other countries like Vietnam, like Sri Lanka, where part and parcel of getting a visa is somewhat easier as compared to India. Similarly, Goa also has certain problems that we'll discuss in detail, but let me summarize you that problems. First is the high travel and accommodation cost. Now, whenever you have to pay a lot of cost for your hotel rooms, for your travel, for your taxis, it automatically imposes lesser amount of disposable income. So foreign tourists who earlier were likely to stay for a longer duration would then take a short trips to Goa, and this obviously would mean that the amount of money that you're earning out of tourist activity reduces. Similarly, Goa for long has been thronged by domestic as well as international tourists. So the popular areas of Goa, most likely its beaches, have witnessed quite a lot of over tourism and over density, and because of that, the amount of serenity that a tourist usually expects to have in Goa, they do not get that experience. So this also eats up to the kind of experience that you get while traveling into Goa. In addition to that, like other parts of the country, Goa also faces problems of lack of adequate infrastructure when it comes to quality of roads, availability of cleanliness and sanitation, and there is also a persisting problem of stray dogs. So this in a way puts a negative perception, gives Goa a negative image as far as foreign tourists are concerned, and that is why their arrivals have declined since the COVID-19 pandemic. But there are other reasons. I told you, high travel and accommodation cost, over tourism, loss of serenity and poor infrastructure. We'll understand these points in detail. Now, another problem is economic competition. Now, Goa is famous for what? Goa is famous for its beaches, for inexpensive alcohol, right? But there are other parts of the country or other countries near our vicinity who are famous for exactly the same reason. Be it Thailand, be it Vietnam, be it Indonesia. Now, these companies, they offer something that Goa can't. First is that the amount of money that you have to pay for hotels is much cheaper in countries like Vietnam. For example, I've attached a screenshot. Now, there is a very popular very popular hotel chain in India called as Radisson Blu. So if you rent a Radisson Blu resort hotel in say Goa, it would set you back somewhere between 45,000 rupees. Now, a same hotel, Radisson Blu, in Vietnam, it would set you back only 6,000 rupees. So the cost of room per day would be more than 7 times than you pay in Vietnam. So that is why for foreign tourists, obviously, if they have to choose between Vietnam and Goa, obviously they choose Vietnam because the hotel rents are quite less. Similarly, as I told you, visa process in other countries who offer flexible e-visas, who offer visa on arrival, that facility is not available for major tourists when they are coming into India. So getting an Indian visa is somewhat more difficult, more cumbersome as compared to visas for say countries like Vietnam or even Sri Lanka for that matter. Similarly, these tourist destinations that I was talking about, they have comparable or in some cases even better infrastructure and facilities as compared to India. For example, very south of India is a country called as Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has much cheaper hotels. In addition to that, Sri Lanka is much more clean when it compares to India. So obviously the experience of tourists in Sri Lanka would be somewhat better than in Goa, right? So these are the factors that are providing alternatives to the foreign tourist, and not just providing adequate alternatives, but these are cheaper alternatives. So that is where Goa is leaving behind in the competition. Now there are other factors also. First is high transport costs and mobility. Now, whenever you go to another city or whenever you go to another country and whenever you have to hail a cab, you have a very simple process in mind. You just open your smartphones, log into apps like Uber, Ola, or in India's case, Rapido, and you get a cheaper option for travel, right? Like taxis, bike taxis, etc. But this option is not available for people who are visiting Goa because Goa has a what you can call a taxi mafia problem. Now, if you have to travel from one location in Goa to another, what you have to do is you have to hire a private taxi. And this would obviously mean that you have to spend a lot of money as compared to the usual apps like Ola and Uber. So this adds to the travel cost. Now, Goa government was aware of this situation, so this year they brought a draft Goa Transport Aggregator Guidelines. But after popular protest from the taxi groups and taxi associations, this plan was dropped by Goa government. And the consequence of which is that in many cases, the tourists who are coming into Goa, their flight tickets are less expensive as compared to their private taxi that they hire after coming to Goa. For example, if you're going from Bangalore to Goa, your usual flights would be around 2500 to 3000 rupees. And when coming into Goa airport, you have to go to a popular beach like say in South Goa, you have to spend as much as 3 to 3,500 rupees. So it would mean that the amount of money that you're spending on taxis would be much higher as compared to your flight ticket. So this adds to your travel cost, right? So this was the another reason. Now, in addition to that, there's also an infrastructure and over-tourism problem in Goa. Now, North Goa is famous for its beaches like Baga Beach, Kalangate Beach, Mandram, Arambol, Ashwam, right? But most of the popular beaches like Goa, Baga Beach, Kalangate Beach, there are overcrowding in these areas. On the other hand, foreigners and even Indian tourists who are visiting Goa, they prefer more quieter beaches, right? So there are very less option left. In addition to that, there are inadequate maintenance of the existing infrastructure. Be it talking about the quality of roads, they are dug up during the peak season, which adds to the difficulty. Similarly, there is also a problem of poor waste management, which is consistent with other parts of the country. In addition to that, tourists are also heckled by the people who are selling goods and services, and this process is called as touting. So this adds to the kind of harassment that the foreign tourist faces in Goa, right? In addition to that, there are many problems. First was the perception problem. Now, in the past few years, there have been many negative posts that have been done by popular social media influencers that Goa has basically down into dumps. Now, this in a way created a negative perception, right or wrong, in the minds of other tourists, be it in India or be it abroad. Now, the Goa government tried to counter this negative perception by asking influencers to conduct positive campaigns for Goa. So, this was one part. Another part was that the tourism minister of Goa claimed that many influencers, they demand for free meals, free stays, in addition to do that positive marketing for the Goa. And if they are not able to secure that, they instead do negative marketing. So one of the problems that have been highlighted, that whether this negative campaign which was done by the influencers, be it right or wrong, but it in a way affected the kind of image that the Goa used to portray to domestic and foreign tourists. So all the people who are wanting to visit Goa now, they will, when they search it, they will come to this kind of content that has been put on social media. So all in all, these reasons combined have added to the negative perception, and this can be seen in terms of less amount of foreign tourist arrival in the country, right? So this is what we were facing. Now, what can government do? First of all, I told you, one of the key problems that the tourists face, especially foreign tourists, is that getting an Indian visa is difficult. So for that matter, the government of Goa has requested Ministry of External Affairs to make visa process, especially for tourists coming to Goa, somewhat easier. And for that, the Goa government has proposed providing a single entry 1 month stay visa into Goa, where the tourists only have to provide proof of their stay and return tickets, and they will get the visa easily. In addition to that, I told you about draft aggregator policy, where government wanted to introduce Ola and Uber in Goa. Now, this was withdrawn under popular pressure, but this gives us an idea that government of Goa is aware of this problem. So in future, after taking consensus, after taking the confidence of existing taxi owners in mind, government should look bringing this policy which would make travel inside Goa much more cheaper, much more efficient, as well as much more convenient for the tourist. Similarly, you also need to enhance the international connectivity that Goa has with different parts of the globe. So tourists who are coming from, say, America, tourists who are coming from Europe, tourists who are coming from Central Asian republics, from there direct flights can be taken. So this is another example. Further, to increase the experience, to elevate the experience, the government can promote sustainable, high-value tourism by better regulating the existing hotels and providing the necessary infrastructure upgrades which Goa desperately needs. So these are the measures that Goa government can take in order to make the experiences of tourists much better and the kind of travel experience that they are wanting to get much improved, right? Now, before solving the question, what we need to do is there is an announcement. Now students who are looking to give exams next to next year in 27 or even in 28, we have batches which are starting as early as 8th of October, that is tomorrow. Now you can take admissions to one of our batches. For that you need to use ATS live code, and this code would get you maximum discounts on all the courses, right? So please make sure to do that. Now let us try to solve two questions that have appeared in the UPSC prelims relating to Goa. First is this question: consider the following events, and we have to put this event in correct chronological sequence. So basically what we have to do is what Mr. Amit Shah is asking us to do. We have to first understand the chronology and then solve this question. So let us try to solve the question. The first democratically elected Communist Party government was formed in India in a particular state of Kerala in the year 1957. So this was first democratically elected communist government, not just in India, anywhere in the world. So this is an important event. Second, India's then largest bank, the Imperial Bank of India, was renamed to State Bank of India. This Imperial Bank of India was nationalized and government became a majority owner of this bank. And in addition to that, the name of this bank was changed to SBI that we know today. Now this was done in the year 1955. Air India was nationalized and it became the national carrier of India. Now when Air India was started in 1930s, it belonged to Tata Group, which was a private company. So in 1953, government nationalized Air India, which means the ownership of Air India transferred from private hands to government hands. So nationalization is basically opposite of privatization. In privatization, the ownership of company transfers from government to private. In nationalization, it goes the opposite direction, that is from private hands to government hands. Now Air India was nationalized and it became a national carrier in 1953. Goa became a part of independent India in the year 1961, where Indian Armed Forces committed an operation which threw back the colonial rulers of Goa, that were Portuguese, and this was in 1961. So the correct chronological order would be the earliest was 3, that is in 1953, then was second, that is the nationalization of State Bank of India, then came 1, that is the first election of democratically communist government in Kerala, then came the independence of Goa. So this is the correct chronological order, and which is the right question? 3214, option B is your right answer. There is another PYQ on Goa which is relating to history. This is the PYQ. Now I'd want all of you to solve this question. Yes, this is not related to our discussion, but this is relating to the history of Goa. So how many of you can solve this? I want to know in the comment section. The ones who answer it correctly, you will get a thumbs up from my side. And also, how many of you have visited Goa? What was your experience? And also, people from Goa who's watching this video, do you feel I've done a justice? Do you feel Goa needs an improvement? Please let me know in the comment section. I'd want all of your opinion, and please try to be very civil about it. Who doesn't love Goa? And don't you think we all want more and more tourists, be it domestic and foreign tourists, to come to Goa? Yes, we all want that. So this is all for our today's discussion. The notes, they will be made available here. So it was good seeing you. Please have a very good night. We'll see each other again.